What's up, guys? We got the new Heart of David, the Kingdom Come drop. If you guys see, this is the t-shirt, super comfortable. Check out the back. If you like hoodies, we got you covered. Matthew chapter 6, we talk about the prayer. It's right over there. It's a powerful prayer. And if you guys like crew necks, we got you covered with the classic black and white. Very, very comfortable, very, very cozy, and here for a limited time. So go to theheartofdavid.co to collect these items today. I want every baby that's conceived to see light. Why? Because it wasn't the mom and dad, it was the hand of God that put it together.
What is a human being? A Christian will say, well, human being is made in the image of God and is a soul bearer. Pretty important, right? Whereas a secularist will say a human being is just a random combination of a clump of cells that accidentally came into existence because of billions of years of accidental evolution. What's the big deal if another one just dies? Not a big deal, right? But we as Christians believe that human beings are image bearers of the divine. And as soon as you believe that, you cannot discard them and call it reproductive health care.
I'm just playing, I don't fight, I do pray. I only go the way of Mr. Yahweh.
It's not often I sit down with somebody and they say something that makes me think.
Brother, this was great.
I love you guys.
Will you give me something to think about?
My own damn way.
I had a lot of fun on this interview.
I'm not educated, but I always speak from
You
my
are
heart.
educated. No, you're great.
I just like asking questions. I think there's too many people pretending they know what's going on. Do you get what I'm saying?
Come Thursday, ASU, we're going to get a huge crowd.
Wow, look at the way we're starting. That's the beginning of this podcast.
That's how I roll.
Dude, happy birthday, bro.
Oh, yeah,
Happy
thank
birthday.
You. Thank you. And well, more importantly, congratulations to you guys.
Thank you so much.
Now, did our conversation have any impact
100%,
last time?
absolutely.
Really? That's really great.
Before we dive into this, man, I got the privilege of speaking to you last time. But in between that, I got to see you work. I go to your campuses. I get to see what you're doing. Bro, you are a robot.
Oh,
you are not a real human being.
You're very kind. Yeah.
No. He thinks like I'm like throwing compliments at you. It's truly, I'm blown away. The other day I was tired and I literally think, I was like, dude, Charlie would be able to do this like 4 times over. Like, I don't know what he's on, but I gotta like, it's good to be inspired by people that can get it done.
Thank you. It's a mixture of great genes, purpose, and then you have to optimize the physicality. So, no drugs, obviously no alcohol, no sugar, no carbohydrates.
So you're on that.
Oh, I mean, that's the only way you can work at the pace that we work at, right? And
when did you change this lifestyle of eating?
Well, I mean, so it's interesting. I started to do 3 hours of radio in the fall of 2020, and that's a grind. Like, that alone is a really hard job. And after about a year, I was like, man, I'm getting worn down with this. There's only so much adrenal reserves you could tap into. And then had our first baby, gained a bunch of weight. Just a little warning, that might happen to you guys.
No, I did. I think I hit that when I got comfortable. It's comfortability.
100%.
Yeah,
And
I hit that. I got
there's
fat.
also there's a study that says as your wife gets pregnant, the husband's testosterone rate actually tapers a little bit. There's a lot of very interesting research, and the husband actually gains some weight. So anyway, I was not as healthy as I wanted to be.
Do you think it's because you're doing things with her and you're stress eating?
So there's something called Kuvad syndrome, which is really interesting, where the audience can look it up, where the husband actually starts, this is the more extreme, where the husband is like, my nipples are hurting and like I have back pain. It's a legit cycle.
Real quick, what do you identify as?
What do I identify? Yeah, exactly. I identify as Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, let's go.
But Kuvad syndrome is like one of the most amazing psychological conditions where husbands literally start to mimic the birth pains or the pregnancy pains of the wife. I wasn't that far, but there is a theory that if you believe in evolution, which I don't, but there is an argument to say that God designed us in harmony in nature. That you do not want to be hyper aggressive as a man with a baby around. So kind of tapering your testosterone rate as you get the baby makes some sense in the natural world. Anyway, gained a bunch of weight, and I was like, I'm not who I want to be, and so I just dove deep in all the health stuff. Found all the literature that you guys would know, which is part of the reasons why I'm wearing the Make America Healthy Again shirt.
I love your t-shirt.
Bobby Kennedy, Mark Hyman, Dr. Daniel Amen, all these amazing, let's just say more contrarian scientists. And I was the most important thing is diet. The most important thing to optimize. And so like just today, I did 3 hours of radio, did 3 hours on campus at Northern Arizona University, NAU, do this, and then we have a long dinner, and it's not a big deal, but you have to treat yourself as if you're an athlete, and every day, from what you eat to how much you sleep and what you put in your body.
I'm not gonna lie, when I saw you on that, you uploaded a few clips of you debating with some people, which I want to get into because they asked some great questions. And I like your videos. I learn a lot from other kids that are, obviously you have some kids that ask ridiculous questions, like, do fat women deserve love too? And like, it's just like a weird mix of people, but you get a few sincere kids that want to learn, and that little information is a good amount, and you get to tap into their heart. But let's take a step back Robert Kennedy and Trump on
Oh,
the
I love it.
same stage.
That was at our event. That was not too far from here. We're in an undisclosed location, but we were in Glendale, Arizona, which is of course why I'm wearing the shirt. It's amazing. I mean, it's the first Kennedy ever to endorse a Republican. Bobby Kennedy, who ran for the presidency as a Democrat, now endorsing Donald Trump. It's so profound that if we had an honest media, this would be the biggest story for like a month or two.
I think it is, and I think they're doing their best to make it seem like it's not, because you could hear the electricity coming from the crowd. It's truly, and also I've already had conversations with people that are like, okay, cool, like I do like what Robert Kennedy brings to the table. So this is a huge win for Trump, because there's a lot of people that believe the fake news and they believe what they've made him out to be. The gospel talks about this. If they don't assassinate you, they assassinate your character. And I think this did help Trump in a way where people like us that actually care about, you know, the ground and the sky and everything that's going along with it, and we don't believe in the fake news. It's good to have that reassurance that his heart is in the right place. So I want to jump into that. How is it that we're going to make America healthy again? That's a great thing to say.
Yeah.
But what are we doing?
You know, I'm far from an expert on this. I encourage people to dive super deep into it. I mean, I've read probably 30 or 40 books on it, and I live it. But it goes a lot deeper than this. And that book, Good Energy by Callie and Casey Means, has really gone viral. It's the #1 book in America. And what they are able to pinpoint in that book, amongst the other community of literature, is that we have a chronic disease epidemic in this country that is far bigger than like systemic racism or climate change or all the other stuff that they have us worry about. And Bobby Kennedy, to his credit, has been pinpointed on this like a heat-seeking missile for the last couple decades.
And it ruined his reputation.
Yeah, so there's two types of illness. There's acute and chronic. So in America, we have the best acute care on the planet. So if you have a heart attack, a gunshot wound, or a broken leg, we can treat you really well, really quickly, and efficiently, and humanely. And no one doubts that. In fact, we're the envy of the world when it comes to acute care. We are one of the worst in not just the Western world, but in all countries on chronic care. Yeah. That is autoimmune issues, Lyme disease, ulcerative colitis, celiac disease, where your body is attacking itself, and it's more than just a pill. It is a lifestyle issue. Mostly, basically, it's a metabolic dysfunction, right? So your body is not optimizing correctly, and those are byproducts of usually either environmental contaminants or pollutants, and or what you are putting in your body, such as diet, lifestyle, sleep, drugs, alcohol. So what Bobby Kennedy argues is that we are actively poisoning our children, actively poisoning the country from the food that we give our kids, from the lifestyle that we elevate and that we do not emphasize enough. And finally, and most importantly, is that our kids are not given a fair shot to be able to succeed if by the time they're 15, they're overweight or obese. So in Japan, this is an amazing study, 3% of Japanese youth are overweight or obese by the age of 15. 50% of American youth are overweight or obese by the age of 15. Something is profoundly wrong with how we are feeding our kids and what we're telling them to do. And it can be as simple as the way we do our farming, the pesticides that we put on our fruits and vegetables, but also if you just look at a typical Lunchables box and what we give our kids in cereal, we are putting things that have been proven in peer-reviewed studies that do not pass the litmus test in Canada, in Germany, in Europe. They do not allow their kids to eat this stuff. We are actively poisoning our kids. So we can start with ending regulatory capture and then saying we just want the same food guidelines as Canada. We want the same food guidelines as Japan. I can go deeper if you guys want.
No, I do.
But
actually,
I think this is actually one of the biggest issues facing humanity right now.
I want to stay to this because this actually follows up my next question and ties both of these together. 51% of people with faith do not vote. And so I sat there thinking about that after you said that to me. And what I came to the conclusion is this. Usually people that have a lot of faith depend on God. And when we're looking at a world where we grew up, where our government says, we love you, we're taking care of you, and then we grow up and realize that they're shaking hands with these people making money so that they could farm us, so they could disease us, so they could cure us, why then would I go into the voting booth? Because now I'm just looking at this man slapping me in the face and handing me cake.
Yeah, so I mean, from a Christian perspective, you have a biblical obligation to care about your neighbor. And one of the ways you care about your neighbor is the type of society you live in.
Yes.
And so making sure that we don't have gulags, concentration camps, or eugenics is one way that you can care about your neighbor. We are commanded in Leviticus 19, one of the two things that Jesus said all the laws of the prophet hang upon. Secondly, all throughout the scriptures, we have examples of people contesting for the welfare of the nation that they are in. Jeremiah 29:7, demand the welfare of the nation that you are in because your welfare is tied to your nation's welfare. Daniel prayed and fasted for his nation. In fact, he was imprisoned for defying a government order that he did not like. Esther, Mordecai, Nehemiah, Jeremiah, they were all political figures. Moses, that cared about the well-being and the type of government that was formed. So we as Christians should have need and concern for the form and the structure of the government that is constituted around us. Now, we happen to, please.
Yeah, amen. And I agree with everything you just said, but it still, faith people base things off of faith. So when they're looking at somebody smiling at them and giving them the news, it's hard for me to put away the knowledge that I have now. It's like, yeah, we are in a bad place right now, but our presidents before that promised us that they were taking care of us. They put us in this situation. So how do we get people to believe that Donald Trump, RFK are not wolves in sheep's clothing?
Well, a couple things. First of all, your ultimate trust should be in Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Right? And so that he is on the throne, Donald Trump is not. I'm not trying to put Donald Trump on a throne. I'm trying to put him in a temporary four-year position where I think he can assemble the best team to advance the biblical worldview that we care about. I will say that when Donald Trump was president, he did so many good things, and some things I think he could have done better at. But three things that I think fulfill the biblical mandate of what we should care about. Blessed are the peacemakers.
Amen.
Fighting for those who can't fight for themselves, such as children and the unborn. And finally, sovereignty or borders, which is a biblical idea. So let's take one of those at a time. And these are not speculation. He delivered on these three things that every Christian should care about. Number one, blessed are the peacemakers. I'm 31 years old now. For the last 32 years, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, there's only been 4 years where there's been no new wars. And that was Donald Trump. We had peace in the Middle East and the Abraham Accords of Donald Trump brokering peace between Israel, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia. Anyone who knows anything about the region, that's a remarkable accomplishment to get those kind of actors together. Putin did not invade Ukraine when Donald Trump was president. Trump was the peace president. We had less civilians dying, less refugees, less war-related casualties than any time in the last 32 years. The only 4 years that was not the case. Bill Clinton mercilessly bombed the Balkan Peninsula in Serbia and Bosnia. We obviously know Bush invaded Iraq and Afghanistan. Obama started coup d'etats in Libya and Syria in the Arab Spring. Peace for Trump, and then under Biden we had Israel, Palestinian conflict, and of course Russia and Ukraine. So that's number one as Christians. We should care about peace, not war. Number two.
Can I say something about that? Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay.
I'm just trying to learn. So in the gospel, you're bringing up peacemakers, right? That's better than peacekeepers. That's legitimately, I'm going out to seek peace. What is Donald going to do, and what does he promise to get us away from World War III?
Yeah, exactly. So you must first come from the intent, which Trump has, and he's well on the record, that war is not something to flippantly throw around as a cheap negotiating tactic or bargaining chip. War is the worst thing we can do. And I feel as if Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney, John Bolton, Leon Panetta, the people that Kamala Harris has now surrounded herself with, that were the architects and the authors of the Iraq War, they're very flippant about war. They don't seem to be concerned about the suffering, the death, the casualty, the spending, the PTSD, the veterans issues. I mean, war is the worst thing that human beings can do. It's the worst expression.
But people make money off of doing it.
They make a lot of money off of it, and I think it's even deeper than that. I think it's a death cult.
So how do we?
So blessed are the peacemakers. Donald Trump will then, before he is president, because Zelensky's already coming to the table, he'll put Putin at the table and Zelensky at the table, and he'll say, "You're not going to get everything you want. You're not going to get anything you want. This ends right now. Mr. Putin, you probably get a portion of eastern Ukraine. Zelensky, stop saber rattling. You're not going to NATO. We're not going to have a couple 100,000 more civilians needlessly dead. This is done. This is over." America is strong enough to broker that deal today because, George, this is what's so important, is that there was a peace deal on the table that would have prevented the Russian-Ukrainian war 5 days into the conflict. Your audience can fact check me on this. This was in Istanbul, Turkey. Tony Blinken and Boris Johnson went to Istanbul, Turkey, and they obliterated a peace deal that was on the table between Zelensky and Putin because they said, no, we will not negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Well, now we have to negotiate with him, and that was the wrong decision, and hundreds of thousands of people needlessly died. So blessed are the peacemakers. I can go deep into that, but it's a peace through strength posture, where Trump is unafraid to project American strength, not weakness, but he is trying to seek reconciliation. What America gets is what America wants. We are still the strongest country in the world. It's not China, it's not Russia. We're still the world reserve currency status. We have the greatest military, most aircraft carriers. We don't have the most nuclear weapons, that's Russia, but we still kind of call the shots.
Hey, man.
Well, no, I mean...
I don't know if you know this. That's a big weapon, dude.
No, it is. We have a lot of nuclear weapons, but at some point, 20,000 versus 10,000.
Where did they get this, and how did they get this so quick?
Well, the Soviet Union spent tons of money on developing an internal intercontinental ballistic missile nuclear warhead program starting in the 80s and 90s. And I mean, it's not the 80s and 90s, I'm sorry, the 60s and 70s, and then it culminated in the 80s and 90s. But anyway, we have a bunch of nuclear weapons. They do too. In almost every metric, though, what America gets, America wants. If we demand peace, we will get peace. Right now, the American Foreign Policy Project thinks that Putin is the worst person ever. I don't like Putin. You don't like Putin. Is he like the warmonger of... Is he like the most evil person since Adolf Hitler? I don't think so, actually. I think he's a thug and he's a gangster that is morally equivalent with most kind of Eastern European thugs, to be
How
perfectly
did you
honest.
feel about the Tucker Carlson interview then?
I thought it was fine. I learned a lot. I mean, here's Putin, a guy that controls a country of 12 time zones, the largest landmass in the country. It's an incredibly diverse country. It's like 10 or 15% Muslim. You have a lot of different mafioso, post-Soviet influences. It's not an easy country to govern. I'm interested to learn about what they think about us. I mean, we should learn about what does Russia think about us.
This video is sponsored by Manscaped. They outdid themselves. The Lawnmower 5.0 Gold Ultra. What? This is nice. Oh my, I almost took out my hair right now. And it would have been nice. I wouldn't even felt it. It just fell off. I'm like, oh, my hair, but look how smooth it is. This is one of my favorite brands to work with because as a Middle Eastern man, the trouble of shaving has always been a journey for me. This one, they've outdone themselves. 2 buttons now. One for power, and then the other one for an LED light. Because when you're in a dark place and you're trying to get the dark place, you know what I mean? You could see it. And these blades aren't just for looks, they're engineered for excellence. The update trimmer blades feature a longer, wider, rounder teeth to tackle hair effortlessly, while the foil blade provides sleek, smooth finish. Yo. And it does. Look how easy it is to take off these blades. Look. The way that I'm putting on these clips and attacking my hair, it looks like John Wick. I walk in, there's hair everywhere. What? I need to get to this brood. But all joking aside, I never ever travel without my Manscaped. So if you guys want this with 20% off plus free shipping, use my code George. Link is in the description. Get the gold standard, baby. I just find it fascinating that they do drop the ball on certain equations that you're mentioning, but at the other hand of it, they don't poison their citizens.
Well, no, actually, Russian food is actually way healthier than ours.
That's what I'm saying.
Like way healthier.
Yeah, so like he might have a lot of nukes and also a lot of nutrients.
We have to be fair. Like Russian food, yeah, exactly. Russian food is far more expensive than American food. But yes, Russian food is far more regulated than American food. So I want to just go through this list really quick, though, for Christians, though. Blessed are the peacemakers. Number 2, which is fighting for the unborn, something I care about, which I know Donald Trump is not nearly as pro-life as I am. I wish he was more pro-life, but it is what it is.
When did that stop? Because didn't he fight for that?
He was always pro-life, and he gave us the reversal of Roe versus Wade. It didn't stop. What has happened is he's been met with a political hurricane where the country is not pro-life. And
yeah, but that doesn't mean stand down on what your morals are.
He hasn't. He has stood by the reversal of Roe versus Wade, sending it back to the states. He has always been against late-term abortion. He's been consistent on that. He has said that we need, exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. And look, there are 10 states that have now completely abolished abortion, which is thanks to Donald Trump. And we as Christians should celebrate that and say, thank you, Donald Trump, for giving us that once-in-a-generation type victory. I want to incorporate number 2 and 3 together really quick for Christians should care about. Borders are biblical. There's an entire book of the Bible that is dedicated to building the wall. The book of Nehemiah, which literally is the Build the Wall book, where Donald Trump...
so Donald Trump stole that... Man, I was kidding.
We should just call him Nehemiah.
Inspiration somewhere.
Exactly.
It's so funny.
Which literally the whole book is about building the wall. But borders are biblical. Without borders, you don't have countries. We know that God's plan for humanity is not a one-world government. We know that in Genesis 11, which is the city of Babel, where Nimrod tried to build a one-world government upon himself with no borders, one language, one culture. God said, no, we are not okay with that, and scattered the languages amongst the people.
That was us.
I'm aware. The greats.
Don't learn from us, guys. We messed up. But yeah, no, I agree with
Nimrod
all that.
was your people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, it's so funny because when people bring that up to me, I just like smile. Like that's the only part of Assyrians that they bring up. Whatever.
But it was also a great civilization. But
they were smart. They created math. They created wrestling, astronomy. Yeah. They created me.
There you go.
But so going back to kind of like talking about how RFK is going to, he's really passionate about making America healthy again. And I remember that when we were speaking to him, he was talking about how we need to fix the soil. Like it starts with the soil.
Yeah, it does.
So what's his plan in order to kind of help these farmers all around America completely fix the soil? Because that's going to be a really big job.
Yeah, it's very complicated.
And I don't mean to intrude that, but when I hear that, I also think there's people that are getting paid big bucks to poison us. How is he going to get to that? If we're talking about the root and the soil, we got to get to the wolves and the sheep clothing.
Yeah, so we have to go even more elementary, unfortunately. We first need to make sure that our medical literature and our data is not corrupted by people that have conflict of interest. So,
we learned this in COVID, it was.
Yes, and so I know that the soil seems like it's the foundational issue. We first need to build political consensus and medical consensus that we are being actively poisoned. Because here's the problem, guys. It's so obvious to us, right? We see what's in these cereals. We see xanthan gum and blue dye 22 and red dye 17, right? And we see that Reese's peanut butter cups literally have a derivative of petroleum in them. Legit, you guys can fact check it.
No wonder it's the bomb.
It explodes in your mouth.
I'm so sorry.
Some foods are literally like 1% away from being plastic.
Correct.
And even like now kids, like toddlers, parents have been taking their kids off of like, all the different dyes, and they see behavioral changes. Like kids are losing their minds, throwing tantrums, and then they change their diet and they can act normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying that cereal causes autism, but I will say that some ingredients in cereal have been shown to show attention deficit disorder, learning and memory focus issues. And other countries do not have the same rates of autism that we do have in this country. It's about 1 in 22 in California now. 1 in 30 kids in the country have autism or some sort of issue on the spectrum. It was 1 in 30,000 25 to 30 years ago.
Wow.
So something has changed. What has changed? Let me tell you, is that the cigarette companies and the addictive companies, as they were starting to get sunsetted and Congress is going after them, they shifted their focus literally to food. And do you notice how addicting food has become? It's not just that it nourishes you. You know this when you go to Europe. You feel full, but you feel good and content.
Yeah.
Our food is different. Our food, like, you want to have that extra Butterfinger. You need to have that extra Snickers. You need to have Taco Bell.
Fries do that. Oh, you just keep going.
Of course, though. And there again, you reflect on it. Again, I don't eat any of that food anymore. Praise God. I've been I feel like I'm an former alcoholic. I am 2 years sober from Chick-fil-A
Plastic
fries,
food.
right?
But it's sad.
No,
it's
but
true.
it's very
true.
similar. By the way,
so
I'll
true.
just be very clear. If you're having a beer a night, or like if you had to choose, okay, I'm gonna have a glass of red wine at night, which I'm not a drinker, not a fan of, or I'm gonna go have Taco Bell every day. I would much rather have you have a glass of red wine than have you have Taco Bell. I mean, it's not even close, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you are being actively poisoned by the ingredient profile, but also it just from look. There's 3 types of food. I don't need to go too deep in this unless you guys want, right? There's proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. And another thing that Trump can do and that Bobby Kennedy will do before we even get to the soil, we need to blow up the food pyramid. The food pyramid is pure propaganda. So we were raised, believing that you should have foundational bread, wheat, rice, potatoes. Ain't wrong. So out of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, what if I told you you only need proteins and fats to survive? If you have no carbohydrates the rest of your life, you're perfectly fine. If you have no proteins, you die. If you have no fats, you die. Now, we think fats is a bad thing, but there are many different types of fats. They're avocado oil, olive oil, almonds, right? I mean, those types of fats are very, very good for you. And of course, protein, needless to say, without protein, you can't have muscle mass and you die. So what we've been told, though, is that heavy carbohydrate diet, which then makes you incredibly insulin resistant, it increases and spikes the type 2 diabetics, the likelihood of profile in this country. And we're wondering why our kids are so obese or overweight, because we have literally nuclear bombed their metabolic system from a young age, where we are sending them these sugar high type concentrated foods, and they're not able to process or digest them correctly. So what can you do to answer your question? We need to blow up the food pyramid, and we need to basically say this. It needs to be more like a food circle, which is you can have maybe 10% of your diet should be carbohydrates, right? 30% of your diet should be proteins, and then 60% of your diet should be healthy fats. Cashews, pecans, almonds, olive oil, avocados, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think that would
Sorry,
be...
I could talk about this stuff forever.
No,
Yeah.
It really did. Like your ability to hold on to this information and regurgitate it the way you do is.
But the health stuff I live, which I don't get. I'm glad we're talking about this. One of the reasons why I'm so excited to try to get Donald Trump in the White House is that we'll finally have a beachhead. Because let me tell you this: Bobby Kennedy reached out to the Kamala Harris campaign and said, "Hey guys, we're actively poisoning our society. Most importantly, our kids. Can we meet about this? This shouldn't be a political issue. Can I please meet with you?" She is bought by food lobbyists. She's bought by war lobbyists, she's bought by abortion lobbyists, and she's bought by food lobbyists, amongst many others. The food lobby gets almost no attention, right? When you think of lobbyists, you probably think of like war lobbyists, right? Or drug company lobbyists. You don't think of lobbyists for Nestle. You don't think of lobbyists for companies that are literally trying to tell your elected leaders, vote no on trying to remove poison from your kids' Snickers. I mean, that is as evil as it gets, right? And I mean, we're talking about Kellogg's cereal, okay? So Kellogg's cereal, which was started in Battle Creek, Michigan, has two different types of cereal. One for the Canadians, which are not colorful dyes, or the ones for Americans that are full of colorful dyes that create attention issues and potentially create autistic type behavior. And they refuse to make the Canadian ingredient profile because kids like the colorful ones better, and it sells more and it's more addictive. We as a country are prioritizing making money and profit above the well-being and the health of our kids. And so Donald Trump has made this a primary focus of his campaign. Bobby Kennedy is a co-chair of the transition team. I think this is non-political. And by the way, you know what's so funny? This used to be a liberal type issue. People on the left used to care about nutrition, health, wellness, vitality, a lot more than conservatives have. And we've seen this inversion. And I'm happy to say that Donald Trump and Bobby Kennedy have this alliance to try to make our country healthy again. I'll make one final thing. We will not heal our divides politically. We will not be able to solve the suicide epidemic, the depression problem, the anxiety problem, the medication problem, if we don't get back to first principles of how we are actively poisoning our metabolic condition on a daily basis.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's the root to everything. It's how we can
Bingo.
heal ourselves. It affects absolutely every aspect in our lives. So thank God for Trump and RFK doing that. And it is kind of crazy when you think about it that the liberal side doesn't want to tap into that portion of things, you know what I mean, of our well-being.
And I think deep down they want, I mean, look, they're the ones that like shop at Whole Foods, right? And I mean, this is the only explanation. They are so blinded by their hatred of Trump that they will not allow themselves to even agree on the most agreeable political issues. And I think that's really sick.
This video is sponsored by Manscaped. They outdid themselves. The Lawnmower 5.0 Gold Ultra. What? This is nice. Oh my, I almost took out my hair right now. And it would have been nice. I wouldn't even felt it. It just fell off. I'm like, oh, my hair. But look how smooth it is. This is one of my favorite brands to work with because as a Middle Eastern man, the trouble of shaving has always been a journey for me. This one, they've outdone themselves. 2 buttons now. One for power. And then the other one for an LED light. Because when you're in a dark place and you're trying to get the dark place, you know what I mean? You could see it. And these blades aren't just for looks, they're engineered for excellence. The Update Trimmer blades feature a longer, wider, rounder teeth to tackle hair effortlessly, while the foil blade provides sleek, smooth finish. Yeah. And it does. Look how easy it is to take off these blades. Look. The way that I'm putting on these clips and attacking my hair, it looks like John Wick. I walk in, there's hair everywhere. What? I need to get to this brood. But all joking aside, I never ever travel without my Manscaped. So if you guys want this with 20% off plus free shipping, use my code George. Link is in the description. Get the gold standard, baby. It makes sense when you think of why would, like, when I think of good and bad, I only see Christ and I see Satan. And I expand my thoughts on, is this coming from my God or is it coming from their God? And when you think about it, it's an amazing attack because people think that church is 4 walls. But the gospel says the church is your temple and that's your body.
That's
so
correct.
if it could affect the civilization's body, it can alter the way they think, they move, they participate in things. It changes their insides out. The gospel even says sin comes through you, not at you. All right, now that I've learned a little bit about that, I'll gather some more questions and we'll come back, maybe have another sit down and see where we can attack that. But I want to jump into this Jubilee video that you did.
Oh, yeah.
Bro,
That was something.
what was this? How did you even get a part of this?
Well, a couple things. First of all, I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, dude, that was fun to watch.
Yeah, jeez. It was difficult because, first of all, Mikey will tell you, that thing was 85 degrees in there, okay? And
really?
That did not come across. I'm telling you, that thing was, they hotboxed us in there, okay? No, I'm not right, Mikey. I'm wearing like I am sweating through. I mean, so I think they wanted it hot
funny,
to try to
yeah.
increase the tensions of the room.
Totally.
Number 2, and I have no hard feelings against Jubilee. They were great and honest brokers and actors, except for one thing. They say that it was 25 college kids. Half of them were college kids. Half of them were like professional TikTok debaters. Again, I'll debate anybody.
Parker kid.
Yeah, and then also Dean and some of these other people. I have no issues with any of it. I'll debate anybody anytime. Great.
But they set you up.
Well, they sort of did. Like when you think of a college kid, you think of like some meandering kid after an econ class. I don't care. Again, I'll debate anybody anytime. But it's also like, okay, this kid has 1 million TikTok followers and he's getting his master's degree in economics. Like, okay, that's a little bit different. Again, no issue. I thought it went very, very well. I thought they were hyper emotional, trying to constantly try to change the topic. I don't quite understand the red flag thing. It was very bizarre when they were all just trying to raise the red
Anytime
flags.
it got somewhere good, then because they didn't like that you were making a point, then they would put the flags up so it would end.
Yeah, I mean, it's gone.
Have you talked to Parker since?
No.
I haven't met
No.
this man. I've never heard of this man. But when I saw him debating, a part of me was like, I love the way this guy debates. I could see why people would understand why they're listening.
I disagree. I thought it was very. It was. I think I'm with you.
No, hold on. I'm not even finished. I'm not even finished.
It's very disingenuous.
No, I think that if he has a passion of debating, but I think he's still young. I think his passion's there, and I think he could be fighting for the right thing.
He's very smart.
I think he's how old is he? He's
very
young.
smart.
Yeah, he's like 20, 21.
Yeah, he's young. I think that if he really because you got to remember, even Candace Owens was on the wrong side of the fence. But then once she developed her skills of how to speak to people, when she came to our side, she's a great representation of what we need.
That's a fair point.
I want to see this kid learn and develop. I think what happens, this is my perspective. I don't know who this kid is, but I think he's getting a lot of people encouraging the way that he's behaving. So he's like speaking above you and talking fast and not letting you speak. And I think once he learns that, like, hey, you should listen to the person that's talking to you, he might be able to digest what those people are saying. And then he can come and argue for us.
Sure. I mean, look, we were trying to debate about college, and he comes in and he's trying to ask me about like epistemological questions of God.
Yeah.
And I was like, can we stay focused? And then he would like berate and mock me for not wanting to debate this very like unrelated topic that he wants to debate. And so that is by definition a disingenuous debater. I will say one thing: the kid Dean. There's a big internet thing about him. They're trying to cancel him because he said the N-word when he was a kid. I actually want to come to his defense. I haven't said this publicly. Again, I thought he was actually a really sweet kid when I met him. I think it's totally wrong. I don't care if you say the N-word when you're 14, 15, 16 years old. It's called being a kid. You do stupid, dumb stuff. And so there are a lot of people trying to cancel Dean. I think it's totally wrong. And like liberals trying to cancel him and conservatives. So I just want to put that in there. I think we have to be very principled about it. And like, he's getting all these people that are trying to disassociate. Very smart kid. I actually think Dean is more likely to one day become more conservative because he's intellectually honest. Again, the Parker thing was just so ridiculous at times. Again, just so understands, anyone that is not like a far left-wing zealot would text me about it and be like, this kid is like deranged. I mean,
no, he definitely had some type of, it felt like, and I'm not trying to say anything disrespectful. It seemed like he was on some type of drug that he was like speaking really quick.
You know when you're nervous and you're trying to get your point across, and so you're like, you have to say it all, and it was just so exhausting.
Again, I understand. I want you to understand the context. 85 degrees. I have to defeat every one of them, so they're all fresh. Okay, so I want you to understand the equivalent. It would be like I have to beat 25 people in one-on-one basketball. And I don't get a break. Okay, and again, I'm sweating through this suit. It's as hot as the Caribbean. Okay, and.
Well, and it's difficult because you're sitting across, I think, like, and certainly from college students, you're more emotional, and if something bothers you, you kind of like to react with an insult.
Well, and then they're also like heckling me. And by the way, they didn't even, you couldn't hear the audio. They're like chanting at me and like, come on, white boy, come on. Like, like who is talking to me right now?
Just FYI, everybody here's white. Like,
well, there was some not white people. But yeah, and then these other people are like chirping at me. Being like, You're lucky we didn't bring up January 6th. And so I'm like chirping back here, and this girl is wishing my daughter gets raped. And like,
I know.
No, you didn't. No, that's a real thing.
I just watched clips, dude. I can't handle a whole hour.
I like the one point where somebody else was talking, and you put them in check, and you're like, but you be faster next time if you want to talk. Because they were talking when they weren't their time. It was so good.
Yeah, okay,
but I also...
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, it's okay.
Well, it actually does add to this. How do you feel about when people say that you only come after college students?
Well, it's not true. I've debated professors, PhDs. That's number one. I'll debate anybody at any time. You can go look at my debates. Literally, I have like 10 or 12 debates against people that are literal PhDs. I didn't go to college. That's number one. Number two, if it's 1 on 25, don't you think it's a little bit more fair? I mean, again, number three, though. But hold on. I just want to understand. Implied, and that's not your question. I understand. But I want to, embedded in the question is this idea that like college kids don't vote or don't have rights. Aren't the most important people to talk to are the stakeholders of the next generation?
Yeah.
These are kids that could serve in our military. They can vote. Let's stop talking down to these kids and start talking to them and hearing them. And again, my college campus tours have evolved over the years. I'm not here to punk you or make you look bad. I'm literally trying to teach. And I think if I'm teaching, how is it any different than what a professor does on campus with these kids? And so it's like a silly thing. They'll say, oh, Charlie only debates college kids. Like, okay, literally, I've sat down with Ben Burgess, for example, who's a PhD professor from Georgia, and we debated socialism for 2 hours. I'll debate anybody, anytime, any place, politician, current, former, old, young, you name it. And it just so happens in that one, they were like, yeah, 1 against 25. I was like, okay, you know.
First of all, that's seriously sick that you could even have the confidence to do that. But through that whole situation between you and Parker, I know it's a little irritating, and I know we're all here laughing, but there's a lot of children that are on his side of the fence that watched the way he reacted and was like, this doesn't seem like he's very confident in what he's saying. He's being very, what is it, gaslighting? Is this what these kids are saying? Like,
yeah.
They're
he would
gaslighting.
answer his question and then be like, you didn't answer my question.
Yeah, so... as much as we could understand that that's foolish, but I think a lot of people did learn from it. I think it opened up a lot of people's eyes. Would you ever be open to sitting down with him again and speaking to him?
Parker, I mean, that's maybe, yeah, I mean, he'd have to clean up his act. Dean, for sure, and I actually have a heart for Dean in a way, not in a romantic way, obviously, but like,
Yes.
I have a heart for that kid. Like, I actually think
So funny that you said that.
Well, I mean, because society is so
so
sick,
funny.
right? But no, I think he's on a journey of intellectual discovery, and I feel bad for him that he's getting rolled all over the internet because of something he said when he was 16. I think that's super unfair. Because you think about it, like, this is something he said when he was 16 in private DMs. He goes viral on this video because of me and the other video, and next thing you know, his entire history gets like he didn't ask for that. So I think that's super unfair. But yeah, I mean, I'll talk to anybody. I will talk to anybody, any place, as long as they don't exist to troll and they're doing it in good faith. If you come in good faith, I'll talk to any time. Parker's right on the edge of good faith, though. It's not a good faith acting at times.
But you got to remember, he's young, dude. He might be influenced by his people.
Fair enough. Then he has to act older and mature.
Yes.
To warrant another sit down.
Got it.
Right.
I think, and this might be shooting my shot out there. I would love to have both of you guys on the show sitting down, and not that I'm a mediator, because people would know that I agree a lot more with your ideas. But I think that if you guys had a place and a setting where it wasn't timed, and you didn't have people saying that your daughter was getting raped, like, I think it would be a little bit more of like, let me actually understand your point of view. But that sit down or it's like Crossfire and it's points and let me take out the guy who takes everybody out. It looked to me more like a royal like battle than it did. Like,
well, yeah, and I'm like trying to fend off as soon as I have a good attack, boom, another one comes, and boom, another one comes. It was a very unusual format.
It's very interesting.
It was entertaining.
It's actually something I wanted to ask you because, I mean, obviously you're used to this and you're used to debating with people, and when people don't get their way, they like to throw insults if their point's not making across. How do you deal with that? Because it must get a little difficult at times. Some people, they like to, insult the way you look or something that you said. And does that affect you a little bit?
No, it doesn't. I mean, look, if you have to insult my physical appearance, then you probably don't have much to say about my ideas, which means my ideas are probably pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, it doesn't bother or faze me. You can't let that stuff get to you.
Cool. I've been practicing not getting offended just off the Bible verses. Only a fool is offended. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I don't want to be a fool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just gets so choking.
All right, let's get into it. What are you worried about, man? Like, I want to learn a little bit more about the election. What are you scared that it could turn, and what are things that you're hoping we could press on?
Yeah, I mean, look, I want to kind of go back to something we said earlier. I'm really worried that a bunch of Christians aren't voting. I'm very concerned about that. Trump could win. Kamala could win. Look, the problem with this election is that it feels bigger than other elections in the past.
Way bigger.
Because we no longer have a Democrat Party that wants the same basic things that we have always wanted, such as a secure border, a stable currency, and the American dream for the next generation. So I imagine in your audience, there's some people that haven't made up their mind on this election. And let me speak directly to them. Here is a fact. They are the first generation since George Washington to have it worse off than their parents. It has never happened before in American history. Every generation has had it at least as good or better than their parents. That's what we call the American dream. You come to this country, you grow up in this country, your kids are going to have a better shot at the American dream than you do. They'll be wealthier, whatever the metric is. Our generation is sicker, fatter, more depressed, more anxious, more Medicaid, harder to buy a home. Here's one number. When Trump was president, you could buy a home with $75,000 of combined annual income a year. Now, $130,000 a year. That's in 4 years. So homeownership is quickly getting out of grasp for the next generation. Their wages aren't going up with inflation. Grocery prices are going up. And we touched on this in our original conversation, which is super simple, which is that you don't have to overthink this. If you cannot walk at night in the great American cities, your leaders have failed and they should be fired. This is not complicated. I don't need a chart. I don't need a graph. I don't need data. I don't need an economist. If you don't feel safe walking the streets of LA, Denver, or Phoenix at night, somebody who is in charge has not done their job and somebody else needs to be replaced. That's not the case in Singapore. It's not the case in Tokyo. But in the Western world, we act as if it's like normal that you have to lock yourself in an apartment at 8 p.m. because the sun is going down, or you need armed security, or that you can only go in certain neighborhoods. It's outrageous and it's wrong, and we shouldn't put up with it. But yes, to the next generation, if you want to restore and renew your access to the American dream, you've seen what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have done. Harder than ever to find good paying jobs. You can't buy homes. You'll be a nation of renters. And not to mention, we have allowed 10 million new people into this country illegally, without permission, that are newcomers, that were not invited, that have inflated the price of housing. Let me just make this super simple argument. Why is housing becoming more expensive? Well, when you have more people, 10 million more people, that are then trying to compete for a finite good, it increases the price of it. This is why sand is cheap and diamonds are expensive. Supply and demand. There's only so much of things in the world. And so what Kamala Harris has done is she said there are no restrictions, no background checks. And let me speak to people's emotions for a second. Under her leadership on the border, in quotes, we have 320,000 missing kids in this country. We don't know where they are. You guys can fact check me on that, by the way. That's not a Charlie Kirk statistic. That's the Department of Homeland Security. We don't know where they are. They could be sex slaves. They could be trafficked for labor. They could be just generally missing. That's 320,000 missing kids. What kind of a society are we where we act as if that is okay? Under Trump, border crossings were an all-time low. We had a border. The Border Patrol Council just endorsed Trump. And the final point I'll make is this, is you're not voting for Trump. You're voting for which side is going to create a roster of 5,000 people that better fits with your worldview. Trump is just the figurehead, if you will. There are 5,000 staffing positions that need to be made of people that will determine whether or not you have a border, whether or not your wages are going to go up, how foreign policy be operated. So do you want your government to be filled with people like Anthony Fauci and Tony Blinken and Dylan Mulvaney, people like that, or would you rather have people like Elon Musk, Tulsi Gabbard, and Bobby Kennedy filling your government? It's a pretty simple choice.
I like that you said you're not hiring just him. You're hiring the 5,000 that he elects to go and help. Okay, but let's break that down, right? Because people can make promises, but I want to see where that promise has potential. When I see him speaking and these children and wives and husbands are like, we need better borders. When he was in Arizona, there was people that were driving from the border. They're like, yo, it's getting ridiculous. And he says, I will get them back out of this country and put them back to where they belong and put a good border up. That sounds fair and nice. He says that he's going to stop sending money to other countries' wars and he's going to put it back into the American pockets. That sounds nice. Now, you said that you have failed leaders. Now, I go to cities like San Francisco and it's kind of ridiculous out there. You could go steal, you could loot, you could do whatever.
Under $900.
And they have a sign saying under $900. Okay, so that is failed leadership. What is Donald Trump going to do to these city leaders? And does he have the power to remove them from their positioning?
He does not have power to do that, but there's a lot he can do to clean up our city. So let's first start on the border. What can he do? Well, he just needs to do everything he did for those 4 years. He needs to reinstate what's called the Remain in Mexico policy, which means you don't get to come into America and apply for asylum. If you are actually seeking asylum, you must fill out your application in Mexico while we do your paperwork. So what we do now is we allow you into the country. We say, oh, you have a court date in 3 years. Thanks so much. See you later. And no one actually shows up for their court date. They come into the interior of the United States and they disappear forever. That's number one. Number two is we must give Border Patrol the tools that they need to prevent the flow of people at the southern border. We need to give them the resources, give them manpower, give them the ability to do the job. Number three is that we must deport the people that are violent criminals. Under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, 13,000 people that have been convicted of murder have come into the interior of the United States. There are 13,000 people that were convicted of murder in another country here in America right now. Just the other day, they arrested a person in Oklahoma City that came under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's open border policy from Afghanistan who planned a terrorist attack on Election Day in Oklahoma City. So I can go into the specifics more if you want. From the American major...
Why are they letting that happen? Why are they letting people in? Are they trying to get their votes?
Some would say that, but let me give you a more innocent explanation. I think that's probably right.
But how can they vote if they're not a citizen?
They're figuring out ways to
yeah, but maybe in the future they have kids. But let me give you a much more agreeable definition that if a liberal was sitting here, they would agree with. They view the world differently than we do. You see, they say that America is for everybody and that anybody should be able to come and that if it decreases or diminishes our standard of living, so be it, because the world is one big project, and borders are kind of an antiquated idea, and it's a colonialist experiment. So why shouldn't someone from Honduras just be able to come on up? Now, we believe that if you do not have borders, you don't have a nation, and that government is constituted to first serve its citizens, that we have a big heart, but you must first deliver for your citizens before you open your door. And that is the way families work, that's the way homes work, and that's the way a nation should work. Liberals would say, but what's the big deal? Why can't we just bring in another 100 million people? We're a big country. We can do it. We can facilitate it. We would say you'll lose your culture. You will lose your history. You will become something completely different. And if you import the third world, you will become the third world. And so why are they doing it? It's hard to pinpoint, George. But at the fundamental core, there is definitely this bleeding heart syndrome where they think America is the best example I could give is they think America is open for looting the way that Louis Vuitton was open for looting during the George Floyd riots. It's open season, take whatever you want.
And it's very fair to say, you can't take care of others if you can't take care of yourself. If you're not well enough, how can you help other people? Which makes sense for a country.
Yeah.
And so going back to the voting point of it, because I know that in the past, a lot of people have felt like, oh, is my vote even really being counted or is it being changed? So how can people this election season know that their vote is secure and it's truly being inputted?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we're running a massive Get Out the Vote operation at Turning Point Action. We have over 1,500 full-time people that are working just on this project. It's the largest in the country. So a couple things, that you can track your vote. For example, in Arizona, you can see and make sure that your vote is actually processed and counted in real time. There's a website for it, and you can actually make sure your vote has gone through. If you guys want to vote in person, that's fine. But everybody in this audience needs to vote in general. There is no reason not to vote. And even if you have questions about how your vote is tabulated and how it's counted, not voting is a guarantee that your vote won't be counted. But voting at least gives you a potential opportunity that you can be in the game and that your vote can be counted. But voting is the absolute minimum. It's about influencing your friends to vote. It's about activating. And look, this election cycle, it feels bigger because, look, if Kamala Harris were to win, she wants to get rid of the filibuster. She wants to add D.C. and Puerto Rico as states, abolish the Electoral College. I believe we'll get closer to World War III. She wants to eliminate American energy independence. She will hyperinflate the economy through trillions of dollars of mass spending. Said differently, guys, it'll be season 2 of what we've seen in season 1 here. And season 1 is a horror show. Look, from the Afghan withdrawal, from the invasion on the southern border, from the inflation crisis. We are $36 trillion in debt right now. We're borrowing $2 trillion a year. We can't afford this current trajectory that we're on. And I'm afraid a second term or a Kamala Harris term would potentially be a death blow to the United States of America. Besides that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
Yeah. This is deep. It's getting there. And it's so funny to see how the world has become. Like, bro, like the fact that we have Kamala Harris on Call Her Daddy is
yeah.
And it's great because we're using the influences that we have and we're participating. And now the internet is real. There is a layer of it. But I think that before I even speak, how did you feel about that interview?
I didn't watch it. I watched parts of it. I hope Alex Cooper finds Jesus because wherever she's been looking for joy and happiness, obviously it hasn't worked. So yeah, I mean, look, Kamala has a lot in common with Alex Cooper, right? They've both.
Why'd your boy just start laughing, dude?
I think your audience can figure it out.
Wait, did something go past my head?
I think you just don't have anything great to say, so you're like, I'm just gonna leave it at what it is.
No, I
think there's something else, dog.
They have a lot in common.
Dude, I'll beep it out. Could you just like fill me in?
No, I mean, look, Kamala Harris slept her way to the top, obviously. I mean, we know that.
We're so stupid.
Yeah, Willie Brown. I mean, we know that. I mean,
but Call Her Daddy, did she sleep her way to the top? I don't think she did.
Well, Georgie, her show, it's.
But
her show's all about her sexual experiences. It doesn't mean she's...
No, hold on. As much as, like, look, if we're going to judge, let's righteously judge. She didn't sleep her way to the top. She expressed sleeping positions, tolerant. Girls listen to it.
Yeah.
She talked about sleeping her way to the top.
Yeah.
Don't do that. No. Listen, I truly think, I like to see the best in people. And I think what happens is she saw a very powerful woman is about to sit in front of her as she's walking into being a very powerful woman. So they were engaging in friendly conversations, but the direction didn't really gauge into a place that is bettering where we should go. And I think there's a lot of softball pitches, but I don't think she slept her way to the top.
Well, no, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Like Alex Cooper got her start bragging about like women gaming men and having
Yes,
hookup
but
culture.
Yeah, that's
multiple
her
men
content.
have gained their way by doing the same thing. So it's like
Well, I mean, I
can't, we
don't know
can't
of a
just-
lot of men sex podcasts.
Look at me. I'm just kidding.
I was gonna, like, I mean, I'm sure they're out there.
Oh,
I mean,
what about that one with Adam?
Adam
I'm
Levine.
I'm so sorry for my ignorance, but the guy who was Adam 22.
I have
What
no
about
idea.
him?
I'm sure it exists.
And there's lots of content like this out
I
there,
get what
but
you're saying. Okay, well, we'll just take it a little
No,
bit
again,
back.
I said I hope Alex Cooper finds Jesus. She needs him.
This is gonna be a tough conversation. This might not make it, but never mind. We're not even gonna
I mean, listen, she's just on the different side of things, and
I was gonna talk about the abortion aspect of things.
I'm happy to talk about abortion. I don't
Okay,
care.
let's talk about that. This is a tough conversation. How I see things is I think that pro-life. I want every baby that's conceived to see light. Why? Because it wasn't the mom and dad; it was the hand of God that put it together.
Amen.
Okay, but that being said, as a Christian, I do see people walking around sinning every day, and it does not give me the right to walk into their home, grab them by the neck, and tell them how Jesus wants them to behave. I see both sides of it. It's my body, it's my choice, but also you can't make me believe in what you're believing. We're both fighting for our rights. They're fighting for their bodies, we're fighting for our minds. Do you get what I'm saying here? So where do we meet in the middle? Because I see people that are like, well, what if she's raped, or God forbid, what if she's like 11? What if she's sick? In my mind, the first questions I ask is, could there be a law that, we have a car and we have rules and regulations. Could there be for them what they're fighting for if, God forbid, the woman was raped, or God forbid, she is 11, or God forbid, she is going to get sick? Is there ways that we could go and have that conversation? Okay, I just wanted to put that out there to let them know that my heart is out there. I want to have that conversation. The other aspect of it that I want to speak about that I don't find it fair is watching men crying outside while the woman has every right to go walk in there and do what's going to permanently change that man's life. I don't understand how that's even fair. So, to be honest, the reason I didn't want to speak about this topic is because I'm not educated enough.
No, we don't have to if you don't want to.
No, I'd like to hear your opinion. I just wanted to get out what I feel on it.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about this topic all the time, but yeah, look. So, can I challenge you a little bit on it?
Yeah,
is that
please,
okay?
please.
As long as you give me your permission.
Oh,
I don't want to. It's your show. So, should we be able to tell a mom you can't kill your 2-year-old?
Should we be able to? Absolutely.
Okay, then why is it any different if it's in the womb?
I understand that completely. But as same as I go up to read and say you should not do drugs because you're harming your temple and God gave you that, God also didn't make me king of everything.
Should it be illegal to kill your 2-year-old?
I think it should be.
Then why should it be illegal to kill your 2-week-old?
I think it should be.
Okay, good. No, then we agree. Then
No. Whoa. We agree.
No. I know, but then there's no issue. Because the moral dimension doesn't change based on where a human being is, right?
Yeah.
So we don't change our moral scorecard based on if you're sitting on a couch or if you're sitting in a womb. We judge things morally regardless of the location of a human being.
I totally understand that. And I just want this to be very, very clear. If I could snap my fingers, there would be no abortions ever again.
No, of course. I know your heart.
100%. But, dude, there's like a lot of trauma that we're just steamrolling past. And I think that we've gotten to the conclusion of like, no, they either have to see it from our point of view or it's not even a thing.
Yeah,
I saw a girl who's melting down in the college and she's yelling at a guy about the pro thing. She's screaming at him. I'm like, this girl's a lunatic. And then at the very last ending of it, she says, I had an abortion. And you could tell that destroyed her.
We got to be morally clear about this. I could talk about the rape thing ad nauseum. I happen to believe it should be illegal in the case of rape. I'm not in the majority of the country. It's a fringe opinion. Trump doesn't share my view. Okay. But if you ask somebody, hey, okay, fine, we'll make it legal for rape, incest, life of the mother, but we'll make it illegal for the other instances. Do you want that? They'll never say yes. Why? Mm-hmm. Because it's now become one of the leading forms of birth control in this country.
No, that's not okay.
No, but that's what I'm saying is that rape, incest, life of the mother is less than 1% of all the cases. Less than 1%.
I'm only expressing the thing that I'm watching tears in their eyes. And I just want the other side to know that we're hearing them.
I love your heart and I hear them, right? But I hear the silent cries of the baby that wasn't able to be born.
I agree.
And we're minimizing it. It is dehumanizing language that is no different than what has happened in the eugenics movement or the Holocaust of how we treat abortion. So let me just kind of riff on this for a second. Abortion is this thing where we decide to suspend all other moral rules and guidelines, and we say that the moral standards that we have for grown humans or developed humans, or let's say adult humans, more so than developing humans, doesn't matter. For example, we think murder is wrong, we think we all agree at this, right? Shouldn't be able to kill your 2-year-old. But if all of a sudden the baby can't be seen and is super small, we're like, oh, actually the rules don't apply. It's because we have these carve-outs because we think it's unique. But what is unique about it? Okay, so yes, it temporarily requires 9 months of gestational assistance in utero from a umbilical cord from the mother. But it has its own DNA, it has its own soul, we believe, and its own heartbeat, own brainwaves, own fingerprints. And so what I'm getting at, though, is that as a society, we have said that, hey, we're going to keep on allowing abortion out of narcissism, convenience, and not taking responsibility. And I'm not trying to bash people that have abortions. I feel for you. We should be able to give you recovery and reconciliation. Only through Christ is that possible. But there are 2 victims when there is an abortion, okay? There is the baby that will never see the light of the day and the damaged mother, both of which. And the way you prevent that is you say, we do not want abortions to be able to occur anymore. I understand it's not politically feasible. I understand people like abortion, but I'm going to keep on standing for moral truth, even if it's unpopular.
Got it. I just wanted to make it on the record that I do stand with the gospel. And
No, of course.
Yeah, I just wanted the viewers to know, not you. I know you know where I'm coming from. I just wanted the viewers to know that I am standing with the gospel on this. But I also know that when I was growing up, there was a lot of kids around me that did drugs because their mom is like, if I find out you do drugs, I'm gonna. And then when they have their opportunity, but when my mom sat me down and taught me out of love why they shouldn't, then when it was around me, I didn't make that decision because I knew where the love came from and what my real decision should be. And the decision was in my hand. So there was no ego or pride being like, it's not my mom's. What I'm saying is, I just want to be at least one person. I know you're doing a great job. I know Mikey's doing a great job.
Mikey's great.
I just want to be at least on the other side of what they're looking at least one person smiling at them and saying, I love you.
Of course. And
I want to listen to you.
And I want, by the way, you have a big platform. There will be a woman that sees this that's contemplating an abortion right now.
Yeah, and I pray that she doesn't do it.
And I hope she takes a pause. And I'm going to be very honest with you. The next 9 months will be hard. Your body will change. You're going to go through mood swings. And then it's not going to get much easier once the baby comes in. But it is worth it beyond anything I can put into words for you to deliver that baby into the world. And you might not feel that for the first year, first 2 years or 3 years, 4 years or 5 years, but there will be a moment when you wake up and you will feel a significance, an accomplishment that is greater than any sort of being a CEO of a shoe company or getting an extra bonus of a stock thing or going out clubbing with your friends.
Amen.
So if that even reaches one woman in this audience,
Amen.
I pray that it does. And I want you to know that you're loved and you're supported. And finally, there are thousands of what is called pregnancy resource centers, which exist to support women in crisis, that they can have the psychological, religious, spiritual support, diapers, baby formula, whatever you need, and they exist for you. And you have to know that you are not alone, and that you can reach out for help, and that they tell you that abortion is the only option, and that is a lie from the pit of hell.
You know, and I think, like, certainly watching you debate this with some younger women, you know, on the Jubilee video about abortions.
Yeah.
What I wish, because obviously, yes, there's those cases, the 1%, right, where it comes from a really poor situation, which is really awful. But for all the others who choose it because you're like, well, I'm too young, what am I going to do? My life is over, or I can't go through this. I wish there was a resource where women could learn the true understanding and the meaning of it, you know? And I think, and unfortunately, I also think that comes from the wisdom of God, because he lets us understand that it's not just ourselves, and that we are not living a selfish life, but we're supposed to live our lives for others, and we're supposed to serve others. And that if we had more, and I wish that if women were able to get that understanding from the Lord, the love from the Lord, understanding how much it means that you're doing it for the life of someone else, you know, and truly understood like what that meant, you know, I think it would change their heart so much, and understand that, like, okay, I'm gonna have to take a sacrifice for 9 months because this isn't what I want for my life, and this is not where I saw myself. But if you're able to take that sacrifice, then you're doing it for something so much greater than yourself.
Beautifully put. And that goes to one of the more important civilizational questions. What is a human being? So a Christian will say, well, human being is made in the image of God and is a soul bearer. Pretty important, right? Whereas a secularist will say a human being is just a random combination of a clump of cells that accidentally came into existence because of billions of years of accidental evolution. What's the big deal if another one just dies? Not a big deal, right? It's no different than eliminating a frog or a toad or a piece of bacteria. But we as Christians believe that human beings are image bearers of the divine. And as soon as you believe that, you cannot discard them and call it reproductive health care.
Right.
If we are speaking to somebody out there that's listening that's contemplating that idea, just know that he's going to fail, I'm going to fail, she's going to fail, but the one that's not going to fail is Christ. And so even if it's in your secret closet, even if you don't want to speak to your parents about it, truly before you make such an impactful decision, invite the Lord in.
Amen.
I promise you, it says in the scripture, come as you are, and it's very hard to understand that. Come as you are means, regardless of where you're at in your mental, how you view God, where your positioning is, come to him and he will reveal himself to you. It is the Holy Spirit. The reason why me and Charlie have such a love for Christ is because of God's grace that we have the love of Christ. He poured his wisdom into us for us to even be able to acknowledge such a deity as that. So all it takes is an invitation. I think this episode was incredible.
Thank you, guys.
I know yeah, please go.
Can I make one final plea?
Yeah, please.
Please go vote and vote for Trump, everybody. I know him personally. He's the best. He has flaws. I have flaws. George has flaws. He'll fight for the country. He'll fight for you. He'll be able to have you guys access the American dream. I can tell you right now, the current trajectory we have is unsustainable. Vote early. Vote right now. Get your friends to do the same. I want you to be able to flourish in this country like your parents did.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
All right, I love you guys so much. And if you guys are watching this show and there's a lot of things that touched your heart and you like have some questions, throw them in the comment section. Let's be as a community. Let's talk to people. Let's not push them away. Let's get people to vote because remember, we're all in this together. So if we don't get together on this, then we're going to fail together on this.
Put in the comments if you guys have voted and who you voted for. We want to hear from you.
Amen. I'll see you guys next time.